Oh, friend, let me tell you. Do you know that annoying little pain in the knee? The one we ignore, thinking it's just fatigue, overdoing it with cleaning, you know? Well, that's how it started. A twinge here, another there, nothing too much. Oh, Megan, you're getting old, I would say to myself, laughing to avoid crying. I started limping a little bit, but who cares? I pushed the grocery cart, climbed the stairs, everything a bit wobbly, but I did it. Put on some ointment, had a little ginger tea, and carried on. But the pain kept increasing, spreading to other parts of the body. It started to hit the wrist, the fingers, all swollen and red. In the morning, getting out of bed was torture. It felt like I had been beaten up during the night. Still, I kept fooling myself. Must be rheumatism, I thought, trying to justify it. I began to avoid activities that required physical effort, making up excuses to not go out with friends, to not play with the grandkids. But the last straw was when I couldn't open a jar of olives. There, standing in the kitchen, with my hand locked and the pain throbbing, I realized I couldn't pretend anymore. I needed help. Now, tell the moment when you finally received the lupus diagnosis. Describe your reaction upon hearing the name of the disease and the impact that this news had on your life. Explain what you knew about lupus before the diagnosis and how this information changed your perspective on your condition. Share your feelings of fear, relief, and hope as you began treatment. When the rheumatologist finally pronounced the word lupus, a mix of fear and relief took over me. Fear because I had no idea what this disease was. Relief because I finally had a name for what had been tormenting me for so long. I remember asking her, "Lupus? What is that?" She explained to me that it was an autoimmune disease where my own body attacked itself. I confess that before the diagnosis, lupus was just a word I had heard in some movie or series. I never imagined that this disease could affect me. The news deeply shook me. I started researching about lupus online and was scared by the amount of information. I saw photos of people with skin lesions, accounts of intense pain, stories of serious complications. The fear that the disease would progress and incapacitate me paralyzed me. But at the same time, I felt a thread of hope. Knowing what I had allowed me to seek proper treatment and take steps to control the disease. I began taking the medications prescribed by the doctor and diligently following her directions. I knew the journey would be long and difficult, but I was willing to fight for my quality of life. To conclude, describe how your life is currently with lupus. Share the daily challenges you face, but also the achievements and lessons you have learned along the way. Encourage other people suffering from autoimmune diseases to seek medical help and not give up hope. Leave a message of optimism and strength to inspire those going through tough times. Today, at 51 years old, I live with lupus. The disease is part of my life, but it does not define me. I face daily challenges such as fatigue, joint pains, and skin eruptions. I need to be careful with sun exposure, maintain a healthy diet, and engage in light physical exercises. But I have learned to live with the disease and adapt my routine to my limitations. I discovered that I am stronger than I imagined, and that I have an incredible support network made up of family, friends, and other lupus patients. Illness has taught me to value every moment, to be grateful for the little things, and not to be so hard on myself. I have learned to listen to my body and respect my limits, and above all, I have learned to have hope. I know lupus is incurable, but it can be controlled with proper treatment. I want to encourage all people suffering from autoimmune diseases to seek medical help, not to isolate themselves, and not to lose hope. Don't give up on yourselves. Remember that you are not alone in this fight. Together, we can overcome challenges and live a full and happy life despite illness. Believe me, it is possible. You see, I have always been an ordinary person, a homemaker, mother, grandmother, one of those who worry about the soap opera at 6, the cornmeal cake recipe, and the children running around the house. My life was peaceful, without much excitement, until a persistent little ache decided to show up and turn everything upside down. I never imagined that something so small could knock me down the way it did. It took me a long time to realize that it wasn't just a backache, just temporary fatigue. You know how it is. We always think we can handle everything, that we can endure a little longer. I ignored the signals my body was giving me, disregarding the warnings that something was not right, and I regret it so much. If I had sought help earlier, maybe things would have been different. That's why I'm here today, sharing my story with you. It's not easy to expose my weaknesses and fears, but I feel like I need to do it. I want to alert other people not to make the same mistakes I made. Listen to your bodies. Don't ignore the pains. Seek medical help as soon as possible. I know we often fear the diagnosis, fear what doctors will say, but fear can't paralyze us. It's better to face the truth head on than to live in uncertainty and suffering. My intention is to turn my experience into an awareness tool, to show that it is possible to have a fulfilling life even with an autoimmune disease. I hope my story inspires you to take care of your health and not give up hope. In the beginning, it was just a passing inconvenience. A heaviness in the legs after a long day at the supermarket. A twinge in the spine after carrying the groceries. Oh, Megan, a sign of aging, I repeated to myself, forcing a smile. I tried to justify every ache, every discomfort with the busy routine, with the stress of the day-to-day, with the lack of time to relax. I need to do more stretching, I thought, while applying the massaging ointment my mother used. The problem is that the little ache became more frequent, more intense. I started to feel an unexplainable fatigue, a weariness that accompanied me all the time. I would wake up already exhausted, as if I hadn't slept at all. But again, I ignored the signs. I must need a vacation, I would say, while taking a caffeine pill boost. Self-medication became my best friend and worst enemy. To relieve the pains, I took ibuprofen as if it were candy. At first, it worked. The pain would vanish for a few hours, and I could carry on with my activities. But with time, the dose needed to be increased more and more to have the same effect. And of course, the side effects started to appear. Heartburn, stomach pain, nausea. Still, I kept deceiving myself. It's just for a while, I would tell myself, while swallowing another pill. The truth is, I was afraid to see a doctor, afraid of what they might say, afraid of finding out I had something serious. I preferred to live in ignorance, even if it meant living with the pain. Furthermore, my routine was very hectic. I worked outside the home, took care of the house, the children, the grandchildren. I didn't have time to go to the doctor, to get tests done. My health always took a back seat. I'll deal with this later, I thought, postponing the appointment to the following week, to next month, to never. And so, I had been neglecting my health, postponing the inevitable. The medications masked the symptoms, but they didn't cure the root of the problem. The pain lingered there, silent and relentless, eating away at my body and soul, until one day the pain became unbearable and I realized I could no longer escape from reality. I needed help urgently. The escalation of symptoms was gradual but relentless. It started with joint pains, which I initially ignored, attributing them to aging or excess work. However, the pains intensified progressively, becoming constant and debilitating. What was once an occasional inconvenience turned into a daily torture. The simple task of opening a jar of jelly or combing my hair became a challenge. My fingers would swell and ache, hindering any precise movement. Walking became a trial as my knees creaked and ached with every step. Climbing stairs was agony, and soon I had to avoid any activity that required physical exertion. The impact on my daily life was devastating. I worked as a receptionist in a medical office, and the pain kept me from performing my tasks efficiently. I struggled to type on the computer, answer the phone, and assist patients. My coworkers began to notice my slowness and lack of energy. My relationships were also affected. I avoided going out with friends because I lacked the energy to participate in social activities. Sleepless nights became frequent as the pain prevented me from sleeping. I would wake up exhausted and irritable, inevitably affecting my mood and family relationships. Leisure became a distant memory. I loved to dance and garden, but the pain prevented me from practicing these activities. I felt trapped in my own body, unable to enjoy the things that used to bring me pleasure. Frustration and despair consumed me. I tried to hide my situation from those around me. I didn't want to worry my children or friends, and I was afraid of being judged or labeled as invalid. I wore loose clothing to conceal the swelling in my joints and tried to keep a smile on my face, even when I was in great pain. However, the pain was becoming increasingly difficult to hide. At times, I couldn't control my tears and needed to step away to avoid being seen. I felt isolated and misunderstood, as if I were living in a different world. Gradually, hope faded away, and I began to resign myself to the idea that my life would never be the same. It felt like my body was failing me, betraying me, and I had no way to stop it. The powerlessness was overwhelming. The day I finally gave in and sought medical help marked the beginning of a new and frightening stage in my life. The pain had become so intense and constant that it prevented me from performing even the most basic tasks. I could no longer disguise my suffering, and the concern on my children's faces made me realize that I needed to do something. I scheduled an appointment with a general practitioner, hoping that he could shed some light on what was happening to my body. I vividly remember that day. The waiting room was crowded, and anxiety consumed me as I waited my turn. Every minute felt like an eternity. When I was finally called, I felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The doctor examined me carefully, asked several questions about my symptoms and family history. I asked him to be honest, to tell me the truth, no matter how harsh it might be. He explained to me that, based on my reports and physical examination, he suspected an autoimmune disease. I confess I had never heard of this before. He explained that the body, by mistake, began to attack itself, causing inflammation and pain in various parts. To confirm the diagnosis, he asked me for a battery of blood and urine tests. The wait for the results was agonizing. Each day, the anxiety grew, and uncertainty gnawed at me from the inside. I researched autoimmune diseases on the internet, frightening myself with the information I found. I imagined the worst, preparing myself for whatever may come. The nights were long and turbulent, filled with nightmares and insomnia. Finally, the day of the results arrived. I went to the office with a heavy heart, accompanied by my husband. The doctor carefully examined the tests and, in a serious tone, informed me that the diagnosis was lupus. The word sounded like a sentence. Lupus? What was that? What did it mean for me? At that moment, the world seemed to collapse. I felt a shock, a deep disbelief. It couldn't be true. Me with lupus? It was as if I was living a nightmare from which I couldn't wake up. Tears started to roll down silently and uncontrollably. The fear of the unknown paralyzed me. The doctor tried to calm me down, explaining that lupus is a chronic disease but can be managed with proper treatment. He explained that I would have to take medication for the rest of my life, have regular medical checkups, and adopt a healthy lifestyle. But at that moment, I couldn't process the information. I was in shock, completely lost and disoriented. The feeling was that my life had ended. I imagined it would never be the same again, that I would be condemned to live with pain and limitations. I felt wronged, revolted by destiny. Why me? What had I done to deserve this? I questioned everything, seeking answers that didn't exist. In the days that followed, I locked myself at home, isolating myself from the world. I didn't want to see anyone, didn't want to talk to anyone. I needed time to process the news, to digest the impact of the diagnosis. I sought information about lupus, reading books, articles, and accounts of other people living with the disease. I needed to understand what was happening to me, to be able to face the future with more certainty. The support of my family was crucial at that moment. My husband and children gave me strength, supported me, and showed me that I was not alone. They encouraged me to seek treatment, not to give up, and to believe that it was possible to have a full and happy life, even with lupus. And gradually, hope began to rekindle. The beginning of treatment was like entering a dark maze, full of unknown paths and unexpected obstacles. The doctor explained to me that lupus requires a complex approach with different medications to control inflammation, modulate the immune system, and relieve symptoms. I started taking corticosteroids, immunosuppressants, and other drugs, each with its own list of side effects. Soon, my body began to react in strange and frightening ways. The corticosteroids, which were essential to control inflammation, left me swollen, with a round face and thin, sensitive skin. I gained weight rapidly, which made me even more depressed. Furthermore, the medication caused me insomnia, irritability, and sudden mood swings. It was as if I didn't recognize myself anymore. Immunosuppressants, in turn, decreased my defenses, making me more susceptible to infections. I would catch colds and flus frequently, and any wound would take a long time to heal. I had several urinary tract infections and even pneumonia, which forced me to be hospitalized for a few days. Hair loss was one of the most difficult side effects to deal with. My hair, which had always been a symbol of my femininity, began to fall out in tufts. At first, I tried to cover it up with hairstyles and specific products, but the loss was so intense that there was no way to hide it. I decided to shave my head, which was an act of liberation, but also a moment of great sadness. Extreme fatigue was another debilitating symptom. Even after a full night's sleep, I would wake up exhausted, lacking the energy to perform the simplest tasks. I needed constant breaks during the day to rest, which prevented me from working and taking care of my home. I felt useless and frustrated. Joint pains continued to torment me, even with medication. At times, they were so intense that they prevented me from walking, dressing myself, or showering. I relied on my husband for everything, which made me feel very dependent and ashamed. In addition to the side effects of the medications, I had to undergo several surgeries to correct issues caused by lupus. I had to have surgery on my knee to remove inflamed tissue and another surgery to treat a complication in my kidneys. Each surgery was a new trauma, a new obstacle to overcome. There were times when I thought about giving up. The pain was unbearable. The side effects left me devastated, and the uncertainty about the future terrified me. I felt alone and desperate, with no hope that things could get better. But in those moments, the support of my family, friends, and medical team was crucial. My husband was always by my side, giving me strength and encouraging me to keep going. My children visited me often, brought me joy, and reminded me how loved I was. My friends called me, invited me out, and showed me that I was not alone. My doctor and the hospital nurses were true angels. They explained everything to me about lupus, helped me deal with medication side effects, and provided me with emotional support. I felt welcomed and understood, which gave me the strength to keep fighting. Gradually, I learned to live with lupus. I understood that the disease was part of my life, but did not define me. I started taking better care of myself, eating healthily, doing light physical exercises, and seeking activities that brought me joy. I discovered that it was possible to have a full and happy life, even with a chronic illness. And most importantly, I learned to have hope. I believe that hope is the force that drives us to move forward, even in the toughest times. I believe that, with faith, perseverance, and the support of the people we love, we can overcome any obstacle and turn pain into learning and love. It is important to understand the difference between terminal illness and palliative care because people often confuse these two terms and associate palliative care with the end of life. Terminal illness refers to an irreversible and progressive condition where death is imminent and inevitable in a short period of time, usually weeks or months. Palliative care, on the other hand, is an approach that aims to improve the quality of life for patients and their families facing problems associated with life-threatening illnesses, whether in the early or advanced stages. Palliative care is not the end of the line, quite the opposite. It is a very important support to help the person live the best way possible with dignity and comfort, regardless of the prognosis. The main focus is not to cure the disease, but to relieve pain, control symptoms, take care of mental and emotional health, and provide spiritual support if desired by the patient. Being in palliative care means having access to a multidisciplinary team composed of doctors, nurses, psychologists, social workers, occupational therapists, and other professionals who work together to provide comprehensive and individualized care. This team assesses the needs of the patient and family, develops a personalized care plan, and closely monitors the progression of the disease, adjusting the treatment as needed. Palliative care can be provided in various settings, such as hospitals, clinics, nursing homes, or even in the patient's residence. The goal is to ensure that the person receives appropriate care in the most comfortable and familiar environment possible. It is a follow-up that allows the patient to live their days with better quality, minimizing suffering and maximizing well-being. In my journey with lupus, palliative care was essential in helping me deal with symptoms and medication side effects. Chronic pain, one of the biggest challenges, and the palliative care team taught me pain control techniques, such as using painkillers, hot and cold compresses, massages, and relaxation exercises. They also helped me cope with fatigue by teaching me to organize my daily routine, prioritize activities, and make time for rest. Mental health was also a major concern. Lupus caused me a lot of anxiety and depression, and the palliative care team offered me psychological support, helping me deal with difficult emotions and find ways to maintain hope and optimism. Participating in support groups with other people living with lupus was very important for me to feel accepted and understood. In addition to conventional treatment, I tried some alternative therapies that helped me a lot in dealing with symptoms and stress. Meditation helped me calm my mind, reduce anxiety, and improve sleep quality. Yoga helped me stretch my muscles, relieve joint pain, and increase flexibility. Acupuncture helped me balance the body's energy, reduce inflammation, and relieve pain. These complementary therapies do not replace conventional medical treatment, but they can be a powerful tool to improve quality of life and promote well-being. It is important to talk to your doctor before starting any alternative therapy to ensure it is safe and appropriate for your case. The experience with palliative care taught me that it is possible to live well even with a chronic illness. The secret is to focus on what we can control, such as diet, physical exercise, sleep, and emotional well-being. It is important to learn to listen to our bodies, respect our limits, and seek help when needed. And above all, it is essential to maintain hope and believe that we can have a fulfilling and happy life despite the challenges. And then, just when I was starting to breathe a little easier, when I felt the storm was passing, it hit me. The relapse, a word that echoed like thunder, bringing back all the fears and anxieties that I had worked so hard to keep under control. Suddenly, everything I had achieved seemed to crumble, like a sandcastle washed away by the tide. It was as if life was playing a cruel trick on me, forcing me to relive the nightmare all over again. The feeling was that I was trapped in a vicious cycle, condemned to fight against the same enemy endlessly. The frustration was immense, anger consuming me from within. Why me, I wondered, in a silent scream of rebellion. So many sacrifices, so much discipline, so much effort, only to, in the end, return to square one. It was as if the disease was mocking my determination, showing that it still held power. The symptoms returned in full force, attacking me from all sides. Joint pain intensified, hindering me from carrying out even the simplest tasks. Fatigue left me debilitated, lacking the energy to get out of bed. Skin eruptions spread across my body, causing itching and discomfort. Moreover, new symptoms emerged, such as shortness of breath, dizziness, and persistent headaches. Once again, I had to undergo a battery of tests to assess the extent of the relapse and check if the disease had spread to other organs. The wait for the results was torturous, each day dragging on like an eternity. The fear that the situation could be even worse than I imagined haunted me constantly. And, unfortunately, the worst happened. The tests revealed metastasis. The disease had spread to my lungs and my bones. The news hit me like a punch in the stomach, leaving me breathless, groundless, hopeless. The word metastasis sounded like a death sentence. The fear of death became a constant presence in my life. I started to think about all the things I had not yet done, all the dreams I had not fulfilled, all the moments I had not savored. I felt regretful for having wasted so much time worrying about small things, for having neglected what truly mattered. The acceptance of the new reality was a slow and painful process. I needed to deal with the idea that my life had an expiration date, that the future I imagined might never come true. It felt like I was saying goodbye to myself, preparing for departure. But little by little, I began to realize that life is a precious gift that should be enjoyed to the fullest, regardless of the circumstances. I decided not to let fear and sadness bring me down, but instead to focus on living in the present, to cherish every moment, to enjoy the company of the people I love. I sought psychological support to help me deal with difficult emotions and find meaning in my experience. Therapy helped me express my feelings, accept my condition, and find the strength to move forward. I also sought spiritual support, reconnecting with my faith and finding comfort in prayers. I learned to be grateful for each day, each smile, each hug. I learned to appreciate the little things, like the birds singing, the scent of flowers, the taste of a good coffee. I learned to love intensely, to forgive easily, and to live with joy. Despite the challenges, I try to maintain a positive and hopeful attitude. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but I'm willing to fight with all my might. I believe that life is a miracle and that each day is an opportunity to love, to learn, and to be happy. And above all, I believe that death is not the end, but rather a passage to a new dimension. I have faith that when my time comes, I will be welcomed with open arms by God, and that I will find eternal peace and happiness. Until then, I will continue to live intensely, savoring every moment and spreading love and hope wherever I go. Today, more than ever, I understand the true meaning of living in the present. For so long, I held on to future plans, goals to be achieved, worries about what was to come. I forgot to appreciate the now, to savor each moment, to be carried away by the small joys that life offered me every day. Illness shook me, woke me up to reality. The future is uncertain, the past is gone, and the only time we really have is the present. And in this present moment, I rediscovered the beauty of simple things. A warm cup of coffee in the morning while I watch the sunrise. The tight hug of my grandchildren who fill me with love and joy. Sunny afternoons in the garden, surrounded by colorful flowers and the singing of birds. Lively conversations with friends filled with laughter and memories. A good book that transports me to other worlds and makes me forget about my problems. I started to value every moment as if it were unique, as if it were the last. I let go of unnecessary worries, criticisms, judgments. I learned to forgive myself, and to move forward without carrying unnecessary burdens. I gave up the pursuit of perfection and began to accept my imperfections, my limitations, my weaknesses. After all, we are all human, prone to mistakes and learning. Relationships became even more important. I prioritized time with my family, with my friends, with the people who truly love me and care for me. I learned to express my feelings, to speak my mind, to show my affection. I stopped being afraid to expose myself, to show my vulnerability, to ask for help when needed. After all, we are social beings. We need each other to be happy. Gratitude has become a daily practice. I am thankful for each new day, for every small achievement, for every smile I receive. I am grateful for my health, for my family, for my friends, for my home, for my work. I am thankful for everything I have, and I do not regret what I lack. Gratitude brings me peace, brings me joy, brings me hope. Illness has taught me to prioritize what really matters. I have learned that the most valuable things we have are love, friendship, family. I have learned that success is not measured by money or power, but by the happiness we bring to others and to ourselves. I have learned that life is a precious gift that should be lived intensely with joy and gratitude. And so I move forward one day at a time, learning, growing, loving, and living. I know the path can be difficult, but I have faith that with God's strength and the support of the people I love, I can overcome any obstacle and transform pain into learning and love. Life has taught me to dance in the rain, to smile through the pain, to love in the midst of the storm. And with that wisdom, I move forward, knowing that the best is yet to come. Life and death. What a mystery. Before the illness, death was something distant, a subject avoided, a dark fear that lurked in my thoughts, but that I preferred to ignore. I lived as if time were infinite, as if youth and health were eternal. I did not realize the fragility of existence, the ephemeral nature of moments. I believed I would have all the time in the world to fulfill my dreams, to enjoy the company of the people I love, to make a difference in the world. But illness confronted me with the finitude of life. Suddenly, death became something real, palpable, a shadow that accompanied me at every moment. The fear intensified, anguish consumed me. I questioned the meaning of life, the purpose of existence, what would happen after death. I felt lost, confused, desperate. However, over time, I learned to deal with the fear of death. I understood that death is not the end, but rather a passage to a new dimension, to a new form of existence. I began to see death as a natural, inevitable process that is part of life. I stopped viewing it as an enemy and started to understand it as a friend, one that will free me from suffering and lead me to peace. The experience of illness transformed me deeply. I became stronger, more resilient, more compassionate. I learned to value every moment, to be grateful for the little things, to love intensely. I stopped worrying about what others think of me and started to focus on being happy, on doing what makes me feel good, on following my heart. Illness taught me to prioritize what truly matters in life: love, friendship, family. I learned to forgive myself, and to move forward without carrying unnecessary burdens. I let go of the pursuit of perfection and began to accept my imperfections, my limitations, my weaknesses. After all, we are all human, prone to mistakes and learning experiences. Compassion has become an essential virtue in my life. I started to put myself in others' shoes, to understand their sufferings, to offer my support and solidarity. I learned that the greatest joy we can have in life is to help others, to make a difference in the world, to spread love and hope wherever we go. The legacy I want to leave is that of a strong, resilient, compassionate woman who loved intensely, lived fully, and inspired others to take care of their health and not give up hope. I want people to remember me as someone who fought with all her might against illness, but never lost the joy of living, the smile on her face, and faith in God. I believe that my story can inspire other people who are facing similar challenges. I want to show that it is possible to have a full and happy life, even with a chronic illness. I want to encourage people to take care of their health, to seek medical help, to follow the appropriate treatment, and to adopt a healthy lifestyle. And above all, I want to convey a message of hope and encouragement. Don't give up on your dreams. Don't let fear and sadness overcome you. Don't lose faith in God. Life is a precious gift that should be lived intensely, with joy and gratitude. Remember that you are not alone in this fight. There are many people who care about you, who are willing to help, and who believe in your potential. Move forward with courage and determination, and never forget that the best is yet to come. Believe in yourselves, believe in life, and believe in God. Hope is the last thing that dies. If there's something I've learned on this journey, it's the importance of listening to my body. It speaks, sometimes in whispers, other times in shouts, but it always warns when something is wrong. We cannot ignore these signs, however small they may seem. That ache we brush off, that fatigue we blame on stress, they can be important alerts. Seeking medical help is not a sign of weakness. Quite the contrary. It is an act of self-love, of caring for our health and well-being. Prevention is key, and an early diagnosis can make all the difference in treating any illness. Don't be afraid to see a doctor, to get tests done, to seek a second opinion. Health is our most precious asset, and we must take care of it with utmost care. If I could give advice based on my experience, I would say, don't give up. Illness can be scary. It may seem like it's going to knock you down, but you are stronger than you think. Believe in yourself, in your ability to overcome challenges. Have faith, hope, and courage to face each day with optimism. Surround yourself with people who love and support you, who give you strength to keep moving forward. And above all, love. Love yourself. Love your family. Love your friends. Love life. Love is the greatest medicine there is. It is what heals us, what strengthens us, what gives us meaning. Value every moment, every smile, every hug. Life is a precious gift, and we must make the most of it with joy and gratitude. Believe in the strength of life, in the ability of the human being to overcome, and in the power of love. Thank you very much for listening to me.